Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Pause to Read. I'm very excited for today's episode because we have author Marilyn Singer here with us today to read a few selections of poems from her book, Who Named Their Pony Macaroni? Now, Marilyn has written over 120 children's books, and she's here to say hello. Marilyn, can you give us a wave?
Hello, how are you all?
Marilyn, thank you so much for being with us today. We're very excited to hear some of your poems just a day after Election Day and in celebration of the Presidential Dogs exhibition here at the Museum of the Dog. So why don't we all pull up a chair and get ready to pause to read with Marilyn?
Great. I am delighted to be here today to read to you from my book, Who Named Their Pony Macaroni? Poems about White House Pets, illustrated by Ryan McAmis and published by Little Brown. I've written quite a few books of poetry, and three of them make up what I call my presidential series. The first is Rutherford B. Who Was He? Poems about our presidents. The second is Have You Heard About Lady Bird? Poems about our first ladies. And this is the third one. I really had a good time writing these books because I love writing poetry. I really enjoy doing research. I like finding out about stuff I didn't know before. And I especially loved writing this book because it's about animals. I adore animals. I like seeing them in the wild, in zoos, in people's houses, and in my house. I have two domestic doves, a cat, and a standard poodle named Busy. And believe me, she is very busy all the time. So the presidents had many pets, and some of them were rather unusual. They had things like alligators, bears, possums, bald eagles, even a raccoon who was quite famous. Her name was Rebecca, and she was owned by Grace Coolidge, Calvin Coolidge's wife. But they mostly had what we would think of as more typical pets: horses, cats, and especially dogs. And I'm going to read to you poems that feature presidential dogs. And I'm going to start with George Washington's dogs. George Washington's dogs. Besides having a country to lead, he created a new dog breed known for its zest and its speed, as well as its howling sound, an American fox hunting hound. The mansion plantation were rife with canines throughout George's life. He bought one or two for his wife. Some were fierce, some frisky, some tame. He gave every one a choice name. Madame Moose was an elegant belle. There were Sweetlips and True Love as well. Bold Vulcan stole food, so they tell. To George, they were all of them jewels. Oh, and he also bred mules. This next poem is called Sleeve Dogs, and I'm going to give you a little bit more information on that one. In the back of the book is what we call back matter. In this case, prose paragraphs that tell you more about the presidents, their families, and their pets. This poem is about Franklin Pierce's dogs. Franklin Pierce was our 14th president. A Northerner with pro-Southern sympathies, Franklin Pierce was not a well-regarded president. But he did succeed in opening trade relations with Japan, which had closed its borders nearly 200 years before. Commodore Matthew Perry, the chief negotiator of the treaty, brought back gifts from the Japanese, including 7 toy dogs, probably Japanese chins. Because they could fit into the sleeves of a kimono, they were called sleeve dogs. Franklin kept one canine and gave the others to friends, including then Secretary of War Jefferson Davis, who went on to become president of the Confederacy. So here's Sleeve Dogs, and this is actually 3 interconnected haikus. The haiku is a Japanese poetry form. A gift from Japan. Sleeve dogs, each small enough to fit in a saucer. Franklin Pierce kept one. Jefferson Davis carried one in his pocket. In that brief moment, East and West were more on their minds than North and South. The next poem I'm going to read is called FDRs Fala. It's about Franklin Delano Roosevelt's Scottish Terrier. Fala was an extremely famous dog, and there have been a number of presidential dogs that were celebrities. I'm going to read you a little bit about some of the ones that I mentioned in the poem before I actually read the poem. The first celebrity dog covered by the press was Warren G. Harding's Airedale, Laddie Boy. He had his portrait painted and sat in his own chair at cabinet meetings. At his second birthday party, the canine was served a cake made of dog biscuits. First Lady Florence Harding took on animal abuse as an issue and featured Laddie at events to promote good care. When Harding died in office, as a memorial and tribute to the president's background as a newspaperman, newsboys collected 19,134 pennies that were melted down and sculpted into a statue of the famous dog. Another dog I mentioned in this poem is Rob Roy. Calvin Coolidge and his wife Grace had a menagerie of familiar and unusual creatures. Grace was especially fond of white collies. Her official portrait features one of them, Rob Roy. And I also mentioned Bo, and you're probably all familiar with Bo. Bo is one of President Obama's 2 Portuguese water dogs. So here we are, FDR's Fala. From Laddie Boy to Rob Roy, straight on through to Bo, a canine's job has been to show that our nation's chief is just an average Joe, to prove that our leader isn't cold or snotty. Perhaps most famous of the pack was Fala, Roosevelt's Scotty, who accompanied the president on many trips by trains and planes and battleships from Mexico to Newfoundland, who witnessed history being made firsthand. An honorary private, he raised funds to fight a war, starred in a short movie, got fan mail galore. Now, cast in bronze, he remains the sole first dog to be memorialized with his master in Washington, D.C. John F. Kennedy had quite a few dogs, including a poodle, and I'm a little biased because I have a poodle. But he also had Macaroni. That was his daughter Caroline's pony. So that's the title of the book, who named their pony Macaroni. One of his dogs was Pushinka. Another famous pet was Pushinka, daughter of Strelka, one of the Russian dogs that had gone to space aboard Sputnik 2. During JFK's term, relations with the Soviet Union were tense, but the leaders of both nations often exchanged presents, and the small dog was a gift from Soviet Premier Nikita Khrushchev. Khrushchev was reminding Kennedy that the Russians were winning the space race. JFK responded by declaring that America would soon put a man on the moon, and America did. However, some historians feel that Pushinka did help ease the tension and may have even prevented nuclear devastation. Although Kennedy was suspicious of the motive behind the gift, he and his family welcomed the dog. Pushinka had 4 puppies: Butterfly, White Tips, Blackie, and Streaker. Thousands of people asked to adopt the pups. 2 children were chosen, and Butterfly and Streaker were sent to new homes. The other 2 dogs went to family friends. Their descendants may still be around today. And here's the poem Pushinka. Pushinka, daughter of the first dog to orbit the Earth and survive. A charming gift from Khrushchev to JFK. A gesture of will and goodwill. That Russia was leading the race to space. That Russia's heart was in the right place. Even amid such fierce rivalry, real warmth wasn't lost. Some think that fluffy dog helped prevent the cost of nuclear destruction, believe it or not, by checking the Cold War from becoming all too hot. Lyndon Baines Johnson loved his dogs. LBJ loved his dogs, thought everyone should know it. On several occasions, he chose odd ways to show it. Reporters watched him pull up him, the beagle, by his ears. Folks did not approve at all. The act was met with jeers. So he was told it would be wise to tell them, "I apologize." In front of an ambassador, he offered no regrets when he and his mutt Yuki howled out duets. Nor did he think it was uncool for them to share the White House pool. Yet when he wanted Yuki and his daughter's wedding photo, his wife, Lady Bird, declared it was absurd, most certainly a no-no. Perhaps she spoiled his fun, but in the end, she won. On several occasions, though he chose odd ways to show it, it's clear that Lyndon loved his dogs and thought the world should know it. Ronald Reagan had several dogs as well, and one of them was a Cavalier King Charles Spaniel named Rex. Rex the Ghostbuster. Ronald Reagan liked to boast that Rex, his dog, had seen a ghost. Honest Abe, to be exact, though none confirmed it as a fact. But it was him, we must presume, since Rex went nuts outside the room where Lincoln was once known to sit. The Spaniel also had a fit at something no one else could see, where the Reagans watched TV. Things we know that aren't bunk. This dog had a lot of spunk. Got a tonsillectomy. Lit the White House Christmas tree. But was the dog a real ghostbuster, or was that all a lot of bluster? So George H.W. Bush and Barbara Bush also had quite a few dogs, and many of them were Springer Spaniels. One of them was Millie, and Millie supposedly wrote a book. It was really written, of course, by Barbara Bush, and the money from the sales of the book went to a foundation for literacy, which was Barbara's major cause. Here is Millie, the author. Though it might sound silly, the Bush's dog Millie dictated a book to Mrs. B, appeared in sitcoms on TV to promote the cause of literacy. One day at a rally, Mr. B swore that he was quite certain his spaniel knew more about foreign affairs than Clinton and Gore, who were his opponents in the race. But he failed to make the case. The voters' reception was decidedly chilly. Bush lost the election, though folks still loved Millie. So I mentioned that Pushinka had puppies at the White House, and Millie also had puppies. One of them was named Ranger, and the Bushes kept Ranger, and one was named Spot, and that went to George W. Bush. Gerald Ford's dog Liberty also had pups, and one of them was Misty. And you'll hear that I mentioned some of these in this poem. This poem is called Born at the White House, and I expect that sometime in the future, there'll be puppies born there again. They were in the papers, they were in the news, they were featured on TV, getting many views. White Tips, Blackie, Streaker, Misty, Ranger, Spot. Pups born in the White House. Such a beloved lot. Republicans approved of them, so did Democrats. Independents also, except those who favored cats. Someday they'll be on cell phones, laptops, tablets too. Pups born in the White House, making their debut. And those are some poems from Who Named Their Pony Macaroni. I hope you enjoyed listening to them, and I hope you'll get a chance to read the whole book and find out even more about other presidential dogs and other presidential pets. Thank you for listening.
Marilyn, thank you so much for taking time to pause to read with us. And thank you, Busy, for being a special guest on our show today.
Say goodbye.
We hope you enjoyed reading with us today, and we hope that you tune in for next week's Pause to Read as well. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.